Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for starting your day with us. We begin this hour with some breaking news out of the Middle East. The ceasefire between Iran and the United States appears to have collapsed. Overnight, President Trump told reporters at the NATO summit in Turkey that the memorandum of understanding agreed to with Iran to end the war was, quote, over. That is after both countries traded a new round of attacks. CENTCOM
released new footage of strikes carried out yesterday by the U.S. military. Dozens of targets in the Strait of Hormuz were hit, including Iranian port cities. Eyewitness footage verified by NBC News shows explosions over one of those cities. The U.S. has carried out strikes in response to what it said was an Iranian attack on commercial tankers in that Strait of Hormuz. Iran shot back by saying the U.S. violated the truce and launched drone and missile strikes on U.S. bases in the Gulf. The latest escalation in violence appears to be a tipping point for the president, who launched this tirade against Iran's leaders overnight.
I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'll speak to our negotiators. They want to negotiate. They're good people. Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. But they have to come back to me. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time dealing with them. They're liars.
NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us now from Tel Aviv with more on all this. So, Raf, first of all, walk us through how this latest exchange of attacks unfolded. What was targeted? What kind of damage are we seeing?
Hey, guys. So U.S. Central Command says it carried out strikes on 85 targets in Iran overnight, most of them hugging the Iranian coast. They say that they targeted radar systems, anti-air systems, and they destroyed some 65 of these small speedboats used by Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps to harass ships in the Strait of Hormuz. They are calling it a powerful strike. Iran is saying it responded with 85 attacks of its own targeted against U.S. bases in both Bahrain and Kuwait. These are two of the Gulf countries that have been hit hardest by Iran over these months of fighting. Authorities in Iran are saying at least one person was killed in the American attacks. We haven't heard of any casualties so far in either Bahrain or Kuwait or any of the U.S. military bases there. Guys.
Ralph, we've seen these flare-ups before. Do we know what it was this time that happened that caused the president to say it's over now?
So, Savannah, this seems to be mounting frustration on the part of the president. The war did not lead to the emphatic American victory that he was hoping for. And now these peace negotiations are stopping and starting, and they are being punctuated by these Iranian attacks on ships in the Strait of Hormuz. You saw him speaking in pretty personal terms about the Iranian leaders, people who at different points he's described as smart people, people he can do business with. So it seems that the president is increasingly frustrated. In terms of whether this ceasefire is truly over, it isn't words we should be looking at, it is actions. You saw this wave of U.S. strikes, you saw these Iranian response strikes. The question now is, are both sides going to keep shooting, or are we heading into a period of quiet and potentially going back into talks? Guys.
I mean, Raf, have we heard anything from Iran about this yet? Do they think the truce is over?
Yeah, Joe, so I think it's important to note the Iranians at this point are not giving a definitive answer one way or another whether or not they think the ceasefire is over. They have accused the U.S. of major violations of the ceasefire, but that's something that we have heard from them before. It's worth noting these negotiations that have been going on in Switzerland were on pause anyway for the duration of this massive funeral that we've seen for the former Iranian supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. They weren't due to resume until at least Friday of this week. So it isn't like we saw everybody get up from the table in Switzerland and walk away. They weren't negotiating, and I think the real test will be whether or not they go back to the table. Yes.
Raf, the U.S. has also revoked a waiver that allowed Iran to sell its oil on international markets. Between that and then just the fact that fighting could be back on, the Strait of Hormuz could continue to have these difficulties, how's that impacting oil prices this morning?
Yeah, so we are seeing oil prices up sharply. They were in the mid-70s last time I checked, up from about $70. So the markets are concerned about this. They are concerned especially that the president is saying the ceasefire may be over. We may be returning to full-scale fighting. It's worth saying Prices are up, but they are nowhere near as high as they were at the peak of this. You might remember back in late April, prices were at $110 a barrel. Americans were feeling that at the pump. This is a much more modest rise, but markets will be very, very closely watching to see what happens in the coming hours and days. Guys.
All right. Raf Sanchez in Tel Aviv. Raf, thank you.
Well, for more out of the NATO summit, let's bring in NBC News Washington correspondent Alice Barr. Alice, good morning. So many thought the Ukraine war would dominate the agenda at this meeting, but it looks like Iran could now take center stage with this news. What has been the reaction from NATO allies to the collapse of this truce? Do we know if they're supportive of the U.S. strikes?
Yeah, Savannah, good morning. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte was very supportive, sitting alongside President Trump this morning. He praised the U.S. campaign in Iran in general and said the new strikes were absolutely necessary and a very strong response to the Iranian attacks on ships in the Strait of Hormuz, telling President Trump, quote, "I'm with you on this." This new flare-up essentially boils down to a question of who controls the strait. Iran insists that vital shipping route falls within its territory. It wants commercial ships to only use routes that it's approved and to pay maritime service fees. President Trump has said the strait has to be open and free, and NATO allies have no interest in seeing fees imposed there. That is not the situation as it stood before the war began. So certainly they're on common ground there as far as the strait goes.
Alice, let's talk about the Ukraine war. We know President Trump's expected to meet with President Zelenskyy on the sidelines of the summit. Ukraine has been pushing for more Patriot missile defense systems from the U.S. Does it seem like America could supply those? What should we expect out of this?
Well, the problem is that those really expensive, really complicated, important Patriot missile defense systems, they are in short supply everywhere. So it's a question of getting them in order to give them to Ukraine. And there have been concerns that the Iran war has, in fact, stretched American resources, though the White House insists the military has what it needs. There are bipartisan members of Congress who are at the NATO summit. Mike Rounds, for instance, a Republican senator, he said he thinks that Ukraine deserves priority. It's a matter of life and death, though President Trump has not committed. He's repeatedly said it's something he knows Ukraine wants and something they'll be talking about.
All right, Alice, thank you so much. Some lawmakers say they've recently spoken to the senator who's been in the hospital for more than 3 weeks. What do we know at this point about his health from these conversations?
The biggest takeaway from these conversations is that Mitch McConnell is conscious and is talking, which doesn't sound like a huge revelation, but considering there's so much speculation about his health, whether he was on life support, whether he was brain dead, this is a pretty big development. Now, we still don't know his exact condition. We don't know his prognosis. We don't know his timeline for a return, but it does appear, at least based on these several readouts from people who said they've spoken to Mitch McConnell, that he is talking, that he is engaged, and that he's able to have lengthy and substantive conversations. Guys.
All right, Mel, thank you so much.
Well, now to an alarming incident right here in New York. Yesterday, officials said a 37-story high-rise in Manhattan was at risk of collapsing. Check this out. There's 2 structural support beams on the 21st floor of this building. They started buckling early on Tuesday morning. Well, overnight, officials did say the building is stable for now. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda has the details.
Alarming images from inside a New York City high-rise at risk of partial collapse, with buckling beams and sinking floors. You can see how the building appears to have a slight lean.
We're getting reports from the construction that 2 columns buckled on the 21st floor.
Construction workers calling in concerns just before 8 a.m.
It's not supposed to happen. Columns are not supposed to bend like that.
The building, formerly home to Pfizer's global headquarters, is being converted to a 1,600-unit apartment complex as part of a pioneering project, now at the center of what city officials are calling a dangerous situation.
Since arriving on scene, we have witnessed additional movement in one of the compromised columns.
150 fire and EMS personnel swarming the scene and evacuating 9 buildings near Grand Central Terminal, according to officials. Schools, hotels, restaurants cleared out. Even a local news station forced to move their broadcast outside. Fortunately, there have been no injuries reported.
What's going through your mind as you were evacuating the building?
Well, this is for real. I need to get out of here really quick because I don't know if the neighbor building is collapsing or not.
There are no Department of Buildings records that indicate prior concern about the structure. The building's developer saying safety is our #1 priority, adding the affected area is a small section of one of the 2 buildings on this site as the race to stabilize this high-rise ramps up. Emily Ikeda, NBC News.
Well, let's dig deeper into this issue now with Dr. Abi Aguirre. He's a professor in the College of Engineering at Drexel University. Doctor, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. So just walk us through first, like, what could cause the support beams of a building to start to buckle like that?
That's a good question. Support columns buckle either because there's an overload or the unbraced length, the length of the column, inadvertently increased. So those are some of the conditions. And the overload could come as a result of increased load from construction materials, or it could come from increased load from removal of bracing elements or load carrying elements that divert more loads to this particular column.
Doctor, we saw a number of nearby buildings evacuated as a precaution. I mean, realistically, how great is the threat to nearby buildings?
Buckling is not something that we expect our buildings to do, especially column buckling. If the building columns buckle and the building tilts and collapses, it could affect nearby buildings. So the first thing is stabilizing this building, making sure that those columns that buckle, the loads that they used to support, that those loads are taken care of through shoring, by shoring the floors above these columns.
Yeah, I think this is kind of what you're saying, but how do you stabilize the building? What can be done to address the danger of a collapse?
You have to shore the building all the way down. Those floors that are relying on these columns have to be shored up using scaffolding, something that looks like scaffolding all the way down to the ground, so that the building can be stabilized while the columns are replaced. Because when I look at those columns are already inelastically buckled, meaning that they will not come back to their original shape if you were to remove the load. So they have to be replaced.
Doctor, for those who live in high-rise buildings and might be concerned about their own safety after seeing something like this, what should they know about the construction of these buildings? Anything you can say to ease their fears?
Buildings typically are built well, built right, but they've got to be maintained, just like the human body. As we age, as buildings age, they need frequent checkup, and that has to be done, maintenance and frequently, so that if anything goes wrong, like as buildings age, for example, there could be corrosion taking place without people knowing, because the structural elements, the skeleton of the building is covered with architectural features. So we need to maintain our buildings. We need to have periodic checkup of our buildings. Buildings don't last forever if you don't maintain them.
Dr. Abi Aguirre, thank you for your time.
My very pleasure.
More neighborhoods are cleaning up this morning after another round of dangerous storms caused flooding and damaging winds. Along the East Coast, the storms dumped up to 8 inches of rain in a short period of time. That flooded streets, stranding drivers in New York and New Jersey. Powerful winds snapped power lines, knocking out power to thousands of homes in the region. Crews are working around the clock, but it might take several days to get the power restored to some spots. In Tennessee, a lightning strike sparked a fire at an apartment complex in Chattanooga. Dozens of homes were destroyed there. NBC News correspondent George Solis has the latest on the ongoing weather chaos.
Millions across the Northeast cleaning up after a potent 1-2 punch of severe weather systems slammed the region. New video showing the power of those winds. Look at this, a trampoline sent sailing through the air outside Baltimore. The systems toppling trees and knocking out power to thousands. Outside New York City, some families in the dark.
They said next week, but hopefully we'll get it in the next few days.
And this dramatic rescue effort in Long Branch. Home security video capturing neighbors rushing to a submerged vehicle, checking to make sure no one was trapped inside. In the upper Midwest, severe storms ripping off roofs and collapsing structures in western Minnesota. Multiple tornado reports in the area. And in the South, fire officials in Chattanooga, Tennessee, confirming a lightning strike sparking this fire at an apartment complex, destroying more than 40 units Sunday. Thankfully, no one was hurt. While in the West, illegal fireworks being blamed for igniting this fire southwest of Portland. 8 people now facing criminal charges there. And the Babylon fire in Utah, now scorching more than 150 square miles. Extreme weather testing communities from coast to coast. George Solis, NBC News.
Well, for more on the weather that is hitting your area, let's get a check on your Morning News Now forecast.
Angie Lassman joins us now with the latest. Angie, good morning.
Hey there, guys. Good morning. We've got more heat to talk about, and it's specifically really kind of building across the south and eventually moving to the east. Dry conditions out to the west, but notice that humidity is still going to be in place across parts of the east. We're going to continue to see those temperatures surging into the 90s across the board today. Notice 90 for Memphis, but feeling like 98. We've got 107 for the feels like in New Orleans. Across parts of the southwest, it's 113 for your high temperature in Phoenix today. Dodge City ends up at 99 degrees. And more of that as we get into tomorrow. Triple digits for Dallas for your actual temperature, feeling a touch warmer than that at 101. Birmingham, you feel like 100 degrees during the warmest point of the day. And St. Louis, same story for you. That heat starts to build for the east as we get into Friday as well. 90 degrees in Washington, D.C. We're back to those mid-80s by Saturday and then feeling a whole lot more comfortable by the time Sunday rolls around. But hanging on to those mid to 90s at least for Friday and Saturday in Charlotte. We stay into those 90s for Birmingham as well as we make our way through the weekend. Meanwhile, some thunderstorms firing up already this morning across parts of the Midwest. We've noticed just near Minneapolis and east of Duluth, we've got some of those thunderstorms. Plenty of lightning and some pockets of heavy rain that you'll have to dodge as you get through the day. But it's a little farther south that we're going to watch for that greater severe risk as we get into the afternoon and evening hours tonight. Notice it's the wind gusts, the hail, and maybe an isolated tornado that we're worried about. This extends from the Rockies all the way into the Midwest through the afternoon and evening hours today. By the time we get into tomorrow, a smaller region included in that severe risk, but still 7 million people across the Rockies, down through the southern plains and points east, St. Louis, Dodge City, Scotts Bluff, all included in that. And it's the hail and damaging winds that we'll watch. The good news is our tornado risk will be on the low end for tomorrow, but still watching for some flash flooding concerns through the day today. Green Bay, Waterloo, Omaha, all areas that I would watch for those hourly rainfall rates anywhere from 1 inch to 2 inches through the day today.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.